we're watching the intro, the Christmas intro. Garrett, awesome job. Man, I'll tell you something. That was so lovely.
That was so happy making.
It was, wasn't it?
Oh, Garrett, that was beautiful.
Yeah,
I love
well
Christmas.
done.
We got all snowy and presents and
that.
stuff. And I
Really
got a haircut out of home.
Yes, you did get a haircut.
I weigh 5 pounds less.
And his pants, his underwear do match his shirt. Remember the other day he was talking about how, like, I'm asking for a friend, he said.
If anybody ever changed their, after they chose their outfit, if they had to change their underwear because their underwear didn't match the outside. So today I said to Luann, now it occurred to me as I got ready today that people are all going to look at me and go, oh, his underwear probably matches his shirt. And she's like, you're wearing orange underwear? And I showed her, and it does match.
He's wearing orange underwear.
And I showed you.
Yes, you did. There's a visual. Oh.
It's not orange, it's tangerine, by the way.
And it's got like navy blue there too, like to match the tie as well, apparently.
Hello.
Hi. How are you?
I'm great today.
Good.
I had
Bum Slide Thursday.
It is. It's Bum Slide Thursday. It's almost Friday. This has been we talked about this yesterday.
Yeah.
This has been a long week, but
I think it's because we're all waiting for Christmas.
Excited.
Yeah.
The 24th is Monday, and then we have 2 days off in a row.
Yes. And we're going to have a live show on Monday.
Oh, we are, yes.
And then we're going to do the best ofs. So that was hard. The team here had such a challenge trying to find the best of anything of the morning show.
We have over 150 in the can now, episodes.
Was there one best of maybe?
I don't know. They had to take a compilation. They couldn't find one show. They couldn't find one show that was actually all good.
They found one with me not yapping my mouth off.
Well, most
and
of the
said, "Oh, that works."
Actually, the best of is the day that you weren't here. So
there you have it, right?
Just the episode of just me.
I tried to make cookies last night.
Oh, you tried?
Yeah.
What happened? Okay, first of all, I gave you a mixer and the batters. What do they call those things? The
beaters.
Beaters. The beaters didn't work with the machine.
Tim lovingly gave me his mom's retro mixing
Mixmaster.
machine.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. I love it. With the bowls and the two different sets of whipper snipper things.
Yeah.
Well, none of them fit in to stay in.
Apparently there was another machine somewhere and those were the beaters.
So I put them in thinking they were good, and then as I put them down, I turned it on and they went flinging all over the kitchen. Yeah, so.
Okay, but that wasn't why your cookies didn't work, right?
No, that was the night before.
This was a disaster.
Yeah,
okay,
so
all around.
last night, making sugar cookies.
I love, what'd you do wrong?
Right. So you're supposed to cream the butter.
Okay.
And then add the sugar
and the vanilla
in 3 installments.
Oh, 3 installments.
And keep, fluffing and fluffing. Well, I forgot that part.
What did you?
Because I was on the phone with both my daughters, so I was distracted. So then I thought, oh my God, I put the egg in, I put the vanilla in, and then I started putting the flour in, and I'm like, sugar.
You forgot.
So then I tried to put the sugar in after. You can't do that.
Does it stay all grainy?
Big balls full of sugar. Yeah, so it went in the garbage.
Oh no!
And I actually cried. My poor husband, he was looking at me like, you are neurotic. I said, I can't even make a stupid cookie. What's wrong with me? What kind of mother am I? I can't make cookies for my kids. Seriously.
But it was their fault.
I cannot make them.
It was their fault.
They distracted me.
That's what I say.
Right?
It's always the kids' fault.
So I'm trying again tonight.
No, tell your kids to bake their own frickin' cookies and bring them home.
No, I want to shock them and show them that I can actually make cookies. I want to show myself.
What recipes do you use? Do you have family recipes you use, or
I have a lot of baking with family recipes, but I got this one online from Daphna Rabinovich, who I used to watch on the Food Channel. Canadian living chefs would cook all the time, so I found this online. And you know what? It's not her fault. It's my fault.
Daphna, you're off the hook.
So now there's a cup of white sugar.
She was very concerned.
And then a cup of brown sugar. So now I've not only missed 1 cup, now I've missed 2 cups. So I'm like, oh, this will be fine. Throwing it in, it's smoking, and there's...
You need to let this go.
Honestly, I cried.
You need to forgive yourself.
Jim, I'm standing in the middle of our kitchen. I said, I can't even make cookies. What's wrong with me? I can't even make cookies. What's wrong? Jim's looking at me like, whoa, meltdown.
I make sugar cookies and I make shortbreads, but then the shortbread recipe is probably my grandmother's, I would think.
Awesome.
So I saw a tweet. I'm a Twitter guy. And I saw a tweet that I shared because it was, it said, I remember a girl in elementary school brought homemade shortbread to class made with margarine instead of butter. I never talked to her again. It's true. There's certain things you just don't mess with.
You can't.
You do not make.
No.
No.
No, you can't. And I'm not a butter or margarine person.
Don't.
If I had to pick one, I would use margarine, but Jim will not. So we always have butter in the house, and that's his domain. We have lots in the freezer. If he runs out of the little container, it's because he's not paying attention, because I will have nothing to do with butter. Except last night I needed the butter.
What about Christmas classics? Like, I think we talked about The Sound of Music already, and you said you don't necessarily watch that one. It's a
That's
wonderful.
not a Christmas classic, is
It's
it?
on every Christmas, The Sound of
Yeah,
Music.
but it's not a Christmas movie.
No, it's not. It's a Wonderful Life. Do you watch that one ever?
No, I've
Okay.
never seen the whole movie.
Today in History, 1946, it premiered. It's a Wonderful Life.
Really?
You've never seen the movie?
I've seen parts of it.
Juju's Petals. Come on.
I know.
Oh,
I know.
The thing, he runs up the stairs and the knob comes off on his hand, and he used to hate it, but now that he's alive again, he loves it and he kisses it, and that made me, every time I cry, Jimmy Stewart. Oh, and Donna Reed is the mother, the wife.
Yeah.
You gotta watch it, Luann.
Well, I always.
You will cry.
You
and
know
cr-
what? I have
You think you
36
cried over cookies?
cousins. I have 36 cousins. The TV was this big. I would
Do
see
me a favor
like,
and
oh,
sit
look at
down and
Jimmy
watch It's a
Stewart.
Wonderful Life with a nice
Okay.
little mug of something. You will eat your cookies, and
If I
you will
could
cry.
make them.
The other Christmas movie that's Home Alone. That's become a
Yes,
Christmas tradition
yes.
now. Have you seen the Google? It's a Google.
It's very
Google
funny.
Home, is it? What is it? Where you say, "Hey Google," da da da, whatever.
Yeah.
It's Macaulay Culkin reprising his role as Kevin, all grown up in the same house. It's cute. It's cute.
It's
little
very
lad.
funny. Yeah. Done by Google.
Did I talk yesterday about Catherine O'Hara? We
No.
talked about Penny Marshall.
Right?
And then when for the movie Big that Penny Marshall
Yes.
directed, Penny Marshall just passed away for those of you who don't know. So Catherine O'Hara auditioned for Big. Was it Big? Yes.
Catherine O'Hara did.
Her and Robert De Niro as the Tom Hanks role.
Robert De Niro.
She said it would have been a whole other movie if they.
Imagine.
Yeah. So, and she said, I guess Penny left them alone in the audition room together for a while, and she was starstruck, Catherine O'Hara, with
No
Robert De
doubt.
Niro in the room, and so she had just done The Revenant. No, that was not him. Anyway, there was some movie he had just done that blew her away, and so she said, instead of getting to know each other, she just sat down and said, "Can you tell me what it was like to make that movie?" And he shared stories with her, and she said,
Awesome.
he was so kind and so nice.
Oh, nice.
And neither of them got the part. But anyway, that was interesting.
That's very nice.
Catherine O'Hara, have you seen her on Schitt's Creek?
She looks phenomenal.
What? And the blonde now?
Seriously.
She's
How old is
so
she? She's
funny.
got to be close to 70,
Catherine?
you think?
I don't think she's.
No?
I think she's probably in her maybe mid-60s tops.
I bet
She's
she
not
can
that
make
much
cookies.
older than us, is she, Lou?
I bet she can make a cookie.
I don't know. Oh, The Voice last night. Spoiler alert in case you didn't see the finale.
Was it last night or the night
Was
before?
it the night before?
I think it was the night before.
Oh, it was, and I PVR'd it. Sorry.
Survivor was last night, the finale there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
People
okay,
were ticked.
75% of the viewers polled said they didn't believe that Chevelle Shepherd, the 16-year-old from New Mexico, deserved to win The Voice, and I would have to concur.
You know what, though? 75% say that,
Who voted?
but they voted. Right?
But not the ones that were polled. I mean, that's the same thing as Donald Trump.
Right, yeah, for sure. The
Not that I'm
people
comparing that sweet young 16-year-old who's very talented, don't get
Yes,
me wrong.
right.
For me personally, is like, if the
Right.
show's called The Voice, that was not the voice that stood out to me in that entire season. So, anyway, congratulations.
it.
You've won $100,000 and you're 16 years old. I don't like you.
You're so jealous.
I am. No,
So
she's a
jealous.
sweet girl and she's
Is she?
talented. Yeah, and I forget, I was trying to look up how she's going to spend the $100,000, but I got sidetracked. When you go to look those entertainment news sites to try to find, you got to
Commercial.
click on things and commercials and
Yeah.
things pop up, and I'm afraid
Things pop up. Yeah, I hate that.
Here's one that popped up: The Australian Bride.
What?
This woman in Australia. What was her name? Her name was Casey.
In Australia?
Yeah, she was going to get married, and the
Okay.
day before, she's out with the girls the night before the wedding, and she discovers, I don't know how, I didn't really pay that much attention because there's so many ads popping up, but somehow she finds out, she gets a phone call or something, she finds out that her fiance has been cheating on her big time, and there are texts.
What?
There are texts that he sent to his mistress about, and they're sexual in nature. Like,
this,
you can better than and I like your body, like this. Okay, so listen,
this is the day before.
The day before, you know what she does? You know what she does,
gosh.
Lou? She doesn't cancel the wedding. She gets to the front of the church. And she turns and she says, this is a sad day. And she pulls out her phone. And she reads the texts in front of the whole congregation from her fiance.
Zing!
The sexual stuff too, with the curse words and the F-bombs and the whole shebang.
Oh!
And he leaves and she says, party's on. This is about friendship and about strength and about honesty. Let's go to the reception.
Awesome. Good for her. That's brave, man. She's brave.
Yeah.
I hope they had a hoot.
I hope so,
Shame
too.
on you, Mr. Groom.
Mr. Garoom? Anyway, on the show today, Luann, I have a taped interview I did. It's a two-parter. It's Teddy Syrette. Teddy Syrette grew up in Sault Ste. Marie. He's First Nation, and he's also two-spirited, and he's an advocate for LGBTQ, two-spirited, and Indigenous issues. And he won the Peace Award.
Yes, he
from
did.
the YMCA on November the 30th. So Teddy joined me, and we had such a great time talking. It's a two-parter. So that's the show today. You're going to enjoy hearing from Teddy Syrette, local Sault Ste. Marie boy who's gone on to great things. And you have the news.
I do.
And it is Bum Slide Thursday. We're going to have a lot of fun. Stay with us on Mornings with Luann and Tim. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Mornings with Luann and Tim and Teddy. Hi, Teddy Syrette.
Hello.
Teddy Syrette is a dear old friend of mine. Well, not so old.
Very old.
It's been a while, though. We met when you were a teenager, and I don't even want to know how old you are now, but what a life you've been having, man.
Thank you.
So we met through theater, and we are both gay men.
Yes.
I don't know whether or not you were identifying as gay when we met, but were you? I don't remember.
Yeah, no, I came out as gay when I was like 12 years old. So
Oh my
even when
gosh.
I was gay before all the other gay bees came out in theater. I remember like the first show I did, like the first musical I did, I think I was 17 and I was already out.
Yeah.
And so everyone knew me as like the gay native guy, and I was like, well, the only native guy in the theater at that time.
Yeah.
But but like I could tell like there was other people there, and I'm like, okay, I think we're all gay. Like,
You know, there's
I'm not saying that all gay people go to theater, but there was a lot of
There was a
people
lot,
in theater when I
yeah.
went.
There's something about being up north. The gaydar doesn't work the same way up north as it does.
No.
You find that too?
No, we don't have a Church Street in Northern Ontario. We have musical theater.
We do.
have community theater.
Exactly.
The gays have.
So, and you know what? So I kind of tease you by saying, yeah, you had a double whammy, man. You were gay and Indigenous. But truly, I mean, so you had two different reasons for people to discriminate against you.
Yeah,
honestly.
no, there was like a lot of different fodder giving to like different bullies as soon as I walked into a room, and I didn't even have to say a goddamn thing.
Right.
Oh, I didn't have to say anything. I'm sorry, Tim.
We might be able to beat that out. I don't know.
My
It's
background's
not
in-
live anyway.
My background's in bingo, so.
Oh, so you can. So listen, tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up for you, because I know my story. I'd like to hear a little bit. And we're decades apart. I mean, I was a teenager in the 70s.
Yeah.
You were a teenager in the 90s.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was your experience like growing up in Sault Ste. Marie and on the reserve?
I think it was really different. It was really challenging for some people. I know there's people out there who like they'll say, like, I haven't experienced any kind of aspects of like racism, or like all my family was accepting, my community was really accepting. I was never bullied in high school. Well, I was like the total opposite.
That was not your story.
That was not my opposite. That was not my story. Because when I came out, I was gay when I was 12. When I realized what gay was.
Mm-hmm.
Like there would be bullies in elementary school, and they would ask. They're like, Teddy's gay. I think Teddy, you're a homo. And I'm like, yeah, I think I am.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what that word is, but it doesn't sound straight.
I found out the definition of homosexual when I was about 13 and kind of like, oh, maybe that's what I am. You know what I mean? So,
Where did you learn the definition?
Where did I learn the
Yeah,
definition?
I'm interviewing you.
That's a
Sorry.
good question. It certainly wasn't in school.
Okay. Yeah.
It must have been from television or something.
Okay. Yeah. See, for me, it was I had we didn't have like access like to computer or Wi-Fi or anything at that time. But the one thing that I did have access to was books. So I really liked to read when I was a kid, and I was reading more like advanced stuff because my parents were also very big in the media. So I was reading newspapers as well, and just like learning what these words were and figuring I was like, okay, what did all this mean?
Right.
So when I learned about the word homosexual or the word gay, it was in HIV/AIDS resource books.
Okay.
So when I was learning, at the same time about learning what it meant to be gay or homosexual, I was also learning about the impacts of HIV and AIDS on the gay population itself.
Yeah.
So growing up, it was one thing to be mindful of like, okay, I have to be mindful of who I am because I'm a brown person, because I'm from a reserve, I'm Native, because I'm gay and I'm flamboyant and I'm feminine. So that's going to make it feel unsafe for me to go into those spaces. But also, if I'm engaging in any kind of sex practices, that I have to make sure that I'm keeping myself protected and other people protected by using condoms and safe sex practices.
It's an awful lot for a teenager to cope with, isn't it, Teddy?
Well, like this was like even before before I was like 13, where I was just because I had my mother always said that you're either going to be a cop or a social worker because you ask so many bleeping questions all the time. Because I was always asking more and because I grew up watching television and movies, so I was like, okay, why did that person do that? Okay, why were those two people together? Why are all those people fighting or treating all these other people with hatred or animosity?
Yeah.
And so I had my one auntie in Garden River, so she's LGBTQ as well. So she kind of figured that I was like a bit different. So she would take me to different movies. So I remember the first movie she took me to was Schindler's List, and I was a small little child, like I was a little one, and she's like, you know what? I'm just gonna see what his reaction is and see what he thinks. And so I was thinking about it too, and I was like, well, that's really it's really hard. I can't believe anybody would treat other people like that with such hatred and animosity. And she said, well, it did happen. So I was learning about the Holocaust, and then she's like, well, there's something like similar that happened here in Canada to Indigenous people when you're looking at cultural genocide of like residential schools, reservations, the Indian Act, and you being a First Nations and Native person should know what that is. So it's a really big concept to understand, but it was something that she's like, I think he can be okay learning about this. I think it's compared to what the other kids are learning. But it was around the same time too that she brought me to go see The Birdcage with Nathan Lane and Robin Williams.
Talk about opposite sides of the
Very
spectrum.
opposite. Well, because she's like, okay, I think he's really clever and I think he's smart because I think he asks a lot of questions, but I think he's also pretty flamboyant and flaming because look at him. He tumbled out of that closet. So she took me to the Birdcage, and she asked me afterwards. She's like, "So how did you like the movie?" And I was like, "Well, I was like those boys who were so pretty, Auntie." I was like, and like those two men were happy, and everyone loved each other, and it was funny, and it was like it was just a great story, Auntie. And she's like, "Yeah, he's gay." Just no doubt about it. He is a little homo.
So now, and what's really cool about your culture, about First Nations, about Indigenous culture, is the two-spirited. What would you call it? A philosophy? I don't know. What do you call it?
The two-spirit is a very modern terminology in itself. So I came to an elder by the name of Myra Laramie out in Manitoba during the 1990s, and it came to her in a vision. And around that time, it was where the HIV/AIDS epidemic was running rampant, and even more so in Indigenous communities because there wasn't a lot of information or resources going to Indigenous communities compared to non-Indigenous communities where the HIV/AIDS movement was treated differently. So what was happening is that you saw a lot of people suffering, and at the same time there was also a lot of people being forced out of their homes or forced out of the community because of homophobia or transphobia or biphobia. So the term that came to being was niche Manaduk. So that's an Anishinaabe term or an Ojibwe term for niche is the number 2.
Yes.
Manadu is spirit. Okay. And the K at the end or for the uk is like the pluralization of it. Okay. So and so there's different variations of it as well, depending on who you're talking to, depending on the dialect. But that in itself is an inclusive term for Indigenous people or First Nations people who identify as being either gender diverse or non-binary or gender fluid, and also being queer or lesbian, gay, or bisexual. So,
and the concept is that they are almost like gifted with the sort of the strengths of both male and female. Is that the idea behind Two-Spirited?
Yeah, so kind of like in a general concept of it is understanding that there is like a balance between masculinity and femininity.
Right.
There is that debate sometimes where people will tell you that it is only exclusive to gender identity and not attraction or sexuality. And then there'll be other people who tell you that it is. But the one thing is for certain is like that the term Two-Spirit might be a modern term, but the concept of gender diversity and same-sex relationships or same-sex partnerships existed here on Turtle Island before colonization or European influences ever existed. Yeah. And the term itself was very important and very dear to Indigenous folks too, is because it was a terminology that was centered on Indigenous identities, separately from Western concepts or Western ideologies to gender and sexuality. So even like terminology like lesbian, gay, bisexual, homosexual, transgender, not language or terminology that a lot of Indigenous people will use or even have in their own teachings. So the term Two-Spirit is a modern term, but it is something, but the concept has always existed here of what that inclusion looked like.
You've gone away and you've gathered so much information, and you've become a true advocate. And we're going to take a commercial break, but when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about your advocacy work that has led to. There's a beautiful picture there of you receiving the Peace Award from the YMCA, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So more with Teddy Syrette coming up right after this break. The CBC says your boyfriend is one of the athletes of the year, Scott Moyer.
He is my boyfriend.
I know, because you interviewed him twice.
Yeah, twice. He came back the second time because of
Lou. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tessa Virtue and Scott. CBC chose them as their athletes of the year. That was pretty cool.
He's so nice.
Is he?
You know what? I'm a figure skating freak. My mom's even worse. And he is lovely. He's such a nice guy.
I'm thinking, I wanted to volunteer for the Special Olympics, and I'm wondering whether I can volunteer just for the figure skating part, like to do something at the rink for the figure skating competitions. Oh, I bet you could. If I could request, I think that's probably kind of pushing
you
to
could
say
be,
I'd like to, but...
You could be the person in the audience that yells with enthusiasm.
I can do that very well. I can lead cheers and stuff, but I think they need people like to actually volunteer to do more meaningful things. So
I bet you.
I need to look into how to do that.
Talk to Beaulieu.
I'll talk to Sean Beaulieu.
There you go.
I can call him, and you know what? They have a website I can go to. That'll give me information.
There you have it.
Okay.
There you go. Hey, you know what? Barack Obama. Remember him? Good old days.
So Donald Trump is at Mar-a-Lago. What's the
Barack
former
Obama
president doing?
Visited a children's hospital.
Of course he did.
With a Santa hat on and the biggest bag of presents on his back that he could carry. And apparently he was just phenomenal with everyone. He thanked the staff, he thanked the doctors and the nurses. You know?
Donald Trump thanked his waiter and his bartender with all the millionaires
his house cleaner
at Mar-a-Lago.
So he's there already.
He's apparently 16-day vacation.
So is the government going to shut down tomorrow?
Well, that's why he figured it wouldn't look good. He figured it wouldn't look good if he said, if I don't get my wall, I'm shutting the government down. I'm going golfing for 16 days while the government shut down. So instead he caved, and there's no longer that. No. They've pushed it off. Well, they've only pushed it off till January. They just keep pushing it off. But I think they're hoping by then he'll be gone.
We can only,
Anyway, Mississauga First Nation, I read this, very interesting. They're going to operate their cannabis retail store at Mississauga First Nation. They're going to run the store themselves. The band will run the store. They formed a committee.
Awesome.
They formed a committee well in advance of the legalization of cannabis in October.
You mean they were ready?
Imagine that. They were actually prepared. And they also said that the province isn't handing down any sort of guidelines and stuff. And they said, you know what? We can do this on our own. So they have put together a plan, and their foremost in their minds was the safety of the children, security of the actual product, and education around use. And that's sort of their approach to how they're going to do it. And they They just figured that their band model is the best for what they're doing in their community, and they wish that other communities would sort of do the same thing. Take a look at that.
That is awesome.
That's what you got to do. It's got to be a community thing. You got to decide how you're going to run it.
Right, and you have to stick by rules and regulations. I mean, it's the only way it's going to work.
So, I mean,
and the focus on kids, is an awesome
absolutely. So that's where you. I mean, it's so simple to say. Like we were talking about this about 2 weeks ago, whatever, about where they're going to be located. It's not that hard to figure out.
No,
I don't think.
I don't either. I don't understand like what the big issue is. I mean, I there's some restrictions, like you can't move into a school gym and open
Of course
a pot
not.
store.
Let's just use common sense. How about that?
Exactly. Yeah, so it's a weird thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good for them. They're on it.
Absolutely. Well, why wait for the province?
Well,
Oh, did you see the results from this?
the sex ed. People want it repealed.
It's real. The results really, and of course our
Now
premier is
he's
saying,
like-
well, they're skewed.
Yeah.
A certain group.
One certain group
I'll tell you. I told you I
has
was on that.
99% of the vote.
I told you I was on that phone line. You know what was skewed was everybody talked sensibly for the first part of a town hall thing over the phone until all of a sudden they got to the sex ed curriculum and all these people showed up who hadn't been chiming in about anything before then, and they were all like, no. Yeah, I think I told you that story. But anyway, if it was skewed in any way, shape, or form for that thing, it was skewed by
Exactly.
people ready to pounce. And instead now, when the other people are pouncing and saying, we,
Don't want this.
then
Now
they say it's skewed.
it's a skewed group.
I don't know.
You know what? Somebody said on Twitter very quickly, called him, Ford Nation wasn't in the House yesterday because to argue about the Taverner position with the
the
OPP.
OPP?
So the social justice minister was taking care of it. And Bob Ray
Yes.
tweeted in response, he's not a nation.
Zing!
I don't like it when they say that. Ford Nation. You know what?
Is there anything in the news today about that stuff? Mm-hmm. Well, that's coming up right after this break.
Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. And since we've no place to go,
And welcome back. Look at you. You're talking about lighting. He's just directing from
I'd like
wherever
to have
he
some
is.
colored lights in here that we could, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, you just want a disco in here. That's what you want. Don't
We've
you?
got the disco balls. Keith just went. We're in the dollar store, Luann, and he sees the little disco balls.
Really?
He bought every single one.
That's awesome.
There's so many of them, they fill a laundry hamper.
Really?
I said, what are you doing with those? I have plans.
Ooh.
Look, I have
I
no
hope I'm
idea.
invited.
Well, we have a disco ball in our attic.
I'm sure you do.
It does. It goes. Anyway.
You know what? You're going to be devastated in 2019. I hate to break it to you.
Why? What's going to happen?
I'm the one to tell you. Kim Kardashian and her sisters are shutting down their apps. I know.
One more Kardashian.
Right.
They have apps.
They have apps. I didn't even know they had apps, but they're shutting down the apps. But don't fret. They'll still have Instagram and Twitter and...
What? Literally. I don't understand how they're so rich. What they do. Okay, so
Well, because they have apps.
I get a makeup
yeah,
line. I get that.
And clothing.
Clothing.
And, you know,
Yeah.
they're apparently very hardworking.
Am I right? Their only claim to fame is the fact that... What? What is their claim to... How do they become famous? Keeping up with the Kardashians.
Well, Kim had
because of the
a
Jenner
sex
connection?
video released. And
That was how they
by
became
her,
famous?
either her husband or boyfriend at the time. And that's how she splashed on to the scene.
But she's lasted longer than Paris Hilton, and that's how Paris became famous.
Speaking of Paris, got scoop on her too.
Oh, that was a good segue.
Yeah, that was.
One for
Jenny
10.
McCarthy has a show on Sirius XM, and she's a banana. She's so funny.
Jenny
She'll
McCarthy.
say or do anything. And Paris Hilton was on the show. And of
Oh.
course, she just broke up her engagement. $2 million ring. So Jenny's like, "Okay, you keeping the ring?" Paris, yeah, diamonds are a girl's best friend. Twinkle, twinkle, twinkle.
$2 million.
$2 million. It looks like it's one out of a quarter machine
But wait a
because
second.
it's so flippin'.
I don't think she can just do that. Who broke off when an engagement break? California law. when an engagement breaks off, the property goes back to the guy. It would go back to the guy that bought it.
Well, apparently,
Because the marriage is the contract. The engagement is not a contract. The marriage would be the contract. And then after they were married, then they could fight over. But as far as I know, if the marriage doesn't go through rightfully, if it went to the courts, he would get that ring back.
But I'm sure that she must have researched all that because, she needs the money. Poor thing.
Hilton.
There's another one. What does she do? What does she do?
What does she do? She
wears $2 million engagement rings, apparently.
And I don't know. She's just born.
You know what?
Born in
She's
that
doing
family.
all right.
Why were we born into the wrong families?
I was born into an amazing, wonderful, loving family.
That's true.
That's why I ended up here, looking like this.
I was also born into an amazing, wonderful family.
You were.
I just wish that they'd had money.
Me too. There's that.
I, honest to God, would never work
look
another day
at
in my
us.
life. I would never work another day in my life.
I would not work. I would not set an
Like we're
alarm
talking about Ellen
ever,
DeGeneres. Like,
ever again in my life.
Neither.
No.
I would read magazines. Although, what did I just say a couple weeks ago? Oh, when I worked in Puerto Rico, all I could do was walk up and down the beach and it was boring. I want that back!
Yes, please.
Okay.
Do you remember the movie Speed?
Yes, I love that movie.
Wasn't that
Sandra
awesome?
Bullock on the bus.
She was so cute with her little short haircut.
Who was the bomber? The guy. Who was that actor? He was
I
great.
forget.
So do I.
She was on Ellen yesterday, and she talked about how she actually had a crush on Keanu Reeves.
Who wouldn't?
Seriously. To the point, though, where she had to really move past it because she was self-conscious acting with him.
Oh, wow. That's
you know
how I
when
am
there's a
with you,
cute-
Lou. I had to get past my attraction for you so that I could function on a daily basis.
Yeah. But you know what? I've interviewed people who are very attractive, and I've had to sort of like turn into the
Scott Moyer?
professional.
Did
Yeah.
Scott Moyer throw you for a loop?
Yeah, he did.
I know that feeling. Sometimes you're talking to somebody and you look in their eyes and,
And
you're
you're just like, oh, right? And you're like, all right, I'm on TV. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
And instead you want to just go,
You want a glass of wine? Chocolate. Can I get you anything?
oh, you're funny. Oh my gosh.
You know what? You gotta just enjoy the nice looking people. You gotta.
Okay, let's enjoy Teddy Syrette.
Okay, good looking people.
Teddy's coming
Done.
back for the second part of our interview after the break. And then Luann and I'll be back to say goodbye. More with Mornings and Luann. Who are we? More with Mornings and Luann after this.
You better
What he
watch
said.
out. You better not cry. Better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming.
So Teddy, it wasn't easy growing up as a brown-skinned gay guy in Northern Ontario. Which reserve your garden river?
Batchewana.
Batchewana First
We're
Nation.
Rankin Reserve, Batchewana.
Rankin, because I remember driving you home a couple times.
Yeah.
There was a dog in the side yard.
After rehearsal, like rehearsal or theater.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Not after a night on the town. No. So anyway,
A couple of times. Oh my God.
wasn't there a dog in your side yard?
There's a couple of dogs in my side yard right now.
Anyway, so then you left the Sioux.
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
I went to Toronto.
Okay.
There was an opportunity to do Two-Spirit queer, trans, indigenous advocacy for an organization down there.
Did you learn a lot when you went away to do that work?
I did. I learned that the communities are very complex, and that a lot of times when you go into different places, sometimes for me, I was very lucky that I traveled to and from Toronto, so I already had a base of supports there. But it made me really reflect on what was missing in my own community here in Sault Ste. Marie, and what work still needs to be done when it comes to building safer spaces or inclusion for LGBTQ people and Indigenous people.
Okay.
But it made me really tie in to make me think of how communities are very complex, but they're also very the same. So a lot of the same issues that are happening here in Sault Ste. Marie can be seen happening in Toronto. And with my ability to travel to different places in Turtle Island in Canada, I'm able to see what some of those issues look like. And one of those issues that really stand out to me is poverty and homelessness.
Yes.
Because going to like bigger cities and then going to smaller cities and just seeing issues of housing issues for people who and sometimes opening those conversations and trying to to find out maybe it's like how many of those people are also influenced or impacted by their own gender and sexuality, and do aspects of homophobia or transphobia play into those barriers for those folks. But it's a very alarming issue, and I think it's quite alarming to come back to Sault Ste. Marie all the time too and see those issues of poverty and homelessness still here. So hopefully with the city council that just happened and with the new leadership that we have formed, that maybe some of those barriers, the challenges can be faced here in Sault Ste. Marie at home, and maybe can be brought over to other places elsewhere.
Fulfilling work for you now, as you are, you're basically self-employed. You do public speaking, you do advocacy work, do you do workshops and that kind of stuff too, Teddy?
Yeah, so I do workshops on what it means to be LGBTQ and Indigenous, and Two-Spirit to different high schools, colleges, universities, and in the smaller communities and agencies. So yesterday I was at Ontario Aboriginal Housing, so I was speaking with them at their staff meeting the other day. And I know there's a youth program that I'm going to be speaking to, and I forget the name of it, so I apologize, next Friday here in Sault Ste. Marie. And then on Monday, I'm actually going to be hosting a Pay What You Can all-access workshop at Cafe Natura on Monday, December 10th at 6 p.m. So, and that's going to be just like my workshop talking about Two-Spirit LGBTQ identity, because I realize that I come back to the Soo all the time to do different work with different agencies, but my work isn't always accessible to the community. So I think that's going to be an opportunity for folks in the community to come and just have that conversation and see what I have to say, whether I say it right or wrong.
And the community has responded very favorably toward the work that you've been doing now since you left the city, and what you keep bringing back to us, and hence the award that received the Mayor Christian. And tell me who this lady is here.
So that's Roseanne Archibald. So she's the regional chief of Ontario.
Wow!
So she was the keynote speaker of.
She was the keynote speaker. And then you were received. Do you have the medal? Did you bring it in on camera?
Oh no, I did. But I do have like this.
You have the pin version.
The little
of it?
pin.
It's a beautiful medallion though that you got. It's about that big around. Weighs a ton. It's like a hockey puck.
It's like a slammer from Pogs. It's like a peace pog. That's what it is.
And tell us the criteria for that award, Teddy.
So the Peace Medal, the YMCA Peace Medal, goes to anybody in a community member who demonstrates different leadership when it comes to accessing awareness or inclusivity and diversity, and also who is really embedded in their community and who has a general sense of leadership.
Do you see a change when you do come home? Do you see a change since you grew up here? Do you see a different mentality in the city and in the high schools or around?
I think so. I think it's like in essence, there has been a definite change. I think from what you have seen since from growing up from the 70s and from me growing up in the 90s. Because I remember when I first came out and I was facing a lot of issues with high school and like attendance and being bullied. And it's I asked a guidance counselor, and they're like, so what's going on? And I'm like, oh, I think I'm gay. And they're like, okay, well, I don't know how to really speak to you about that, but luckily for you, I have a poster. So that guidance counselor managed to find, like, someone had emailed her a poster saying there was an LGBT youth group happening in Sault Ste. Marie. I was 15 years old, and she's like, I don't know how to assist you, but I know this poster could be helpful to you, so maybe you should go to it. And she's like, I think you're supposed to go to it. So that person was Karen Thompson. So I saw her a couple of years ago when I was back here from Toronto, my first Christmas back, and I just saw her in the Station Mall, and I just went up to her and I was like, hi. I don't know if you remember me, but I was like, but I'm Teddy. I used to be my guidance counselor. And she's like, oh, I remember you. And she's like, how was everything? And I was like, it's really good. And I just had to thank her and just say, I was like, you saved my life.
Yeah.
You were one person who might have only had a poster, but that poster was so fulfilling and so meaningful, because that brought me to see other people in the community who were youth, who were like me, who were gay. And a year later into that youth group that I went to, I saw I met another Indigenous First Nations youth who was also gay. And that tension that was lifted when it came to like being isolated, when you're thinking, not only do I feel like I'm the only gay person, but I'm the only gay native person. So when I saw this gay youth walk into this group, it was like one of those things where he was like, you! And I was like, you! And he was like, where have you been? And I was like, I've been in Thunder Bay. And I was like, oh, I've been here, oh my gosh. So for even the whole entire workshop, people were like, you guys have to quiet down. And they're like, no, you have to quiet down, because I'm just seeing this person. It's like, because it's the first brown native person that we've ever seen each other. So so even to seeing what that looks like today, where we have Sioux Pride that's celebrating in their 5th year that happened this summer, where you see Shabby Motley still hosting monthly coffee nights for Sioux Pride
and trans
coffee nights on every first December of the month,
and Maker North doing LGBTQ arts and crafts and stuff.
So there's a lot of progress that's being made.
Right.
There's still a lot of progress and work that needs to continue on, and that needs to also be led from LGBTQ people and two-spirited people as well, but also from allies and straight people in the community as well. So and I always encourage folks is like if you don't know what to do to provide allyship or support or advice, just try anything. Make those mistakes, and that's one of the sacred teachings that I come from is humility. And as if you make mistakes, you learn from them and you move forward in a good way. So I tell if anybody wants to support or LGBTQ or two-spirited people, just try it no matter what. Just love them and respect them the same way that you want to be loved and respected.
I think that's probably a nice way to end our interview. Teddy, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
For all you've done and for all you continue to do. I'm going to get choked up, so we're going to say goodbye before I lose it. Teddy Syrette, ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the recipient, you didn't win anything, you earned it, recipient of the YMCA Peace Medal. And my friend, we'll be back with more Mornings with Luann and Tim after this. You know what? I'm in a great mood right now. Thank you for a great morning.
It was fun, wasn't it?
I really had a fun show today.
Look at us all shocked we had fun. Whoa! We had a good time.
I hope you have fun at whatever you do today, whether it be work or play or just hanging around with friends and family. Enjoy the day. It's tomorrow's Friday.
Tomorrow's Friday. Boy, it's a long time coming. It feels like this week. We were just talking about how we're like kids, I think, waiting for Christmas. It's like, it's only Thursday. Come on, Friday. But we'll see you in the morning.
Absolutely.
For our TGIF edition.
Yeah. Oh, and it's a fun show tomorrow. Oh, Mauro Sacoli and Rosetta Sacoli.
Oh, awesome.
From Nona's Cucina. We cook for you for Christmas. Ooh. And we talk about a New Year's Eve party to crush cancer. Oh, it's going to be a fun show. And Humane Society.
See you tomorrow.